So we are setting up our Woodmaster. This is kind of cool because this is the first time I'll use it, other than one time just I ran a board through it. But basically what I'm going to do is I want to rip this stuff to like around 4 7/8. So I'm going to set up these blades so that I am going to do a couple of things here. One is I'm going to set the first blade, because you can decide on which way you're going to run this stuff through, which fence you're going to put it up against. I've made a decision that I'm going to typically run it up against the left fence. So by running it up against the left fence, I don't know if the camera will catch this, but I'm going to leave a space between the fence and the first blade, and basically what that's going to do is rip off the first like 1/4 inch. I do have enough width on the boards. The boards are 6 inches now. I've decided I'm not going to be able to get any second use out of them. It's going to basically probably end up being cut up for kindling. But that way I get a clean edge on one side. Then the distance from here to the next blade, I'm going to set that up at 4 7/8. Now, if I was really going to be tricky or finicky about this and want to get it so that it's exactly the right distance, then I would even run some test runs. But because I'm ballparking 4 7/8, so that when I attach 3 of these boards together, I'm basically going to have a triple laminate, which is 4 7/8 inch wide. I'm going to Gorilla Glue it, and then after that, then I'm going to start running it through a couple of different machines. We'll cover that. It depends on how rustic I want it to be, or if I want it to be really clean. But that gives me 3/8 of an inch to take off from both sides to really get these things really clean. So again, that's the way I'm going to set this up. The way you do that with this Woodmaster is you basically have a Allen, all right? And again, I've got this one already locked in. So you take the 2 of them and release the pressure on those Allens. Then there is there's a cotter pin in there. I'll cover this later, but this is the Incra. I've got a number of these. You have these around the shop all the time. I use a 6-inch a lot. There's a 3 or a 4-inch, but I use a 6-inch a lot. They give you a lot more accurate measurements. I don't use them as like a right angle because there's too much flexibility in them, but I'll cover that. So anyways, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to measure from, when you set these up, you need to measure from what's going to be the finished board width. So because I need to get my ruler over here further, I'm going to start off at 5 on the inside edge, not the outside edge, but the inside edge at 5. And then, so if I set this up right here, I would basically have 1, 2, 3, I'd have a 4-inch cut. So what I really want to do is get 4 7/8. So I'm going from the edge of the blade, right, like you always should do when you're setting up a saw, it's where is really the tooth of the blade going to be, not the blade itself. So right now I've got it at 4 7/8, which again is going to be close enough for horseshoes and hand grenades on this project because I'm going to clean it up later. I'm just going to slide my key back in there. These wrenches come in really handy for this. You want to try to make sure you don't move the blade accidentally, especially if you're really looking for a fine cut. But basically she is now ready to go, and I'm just going to double check this other one. And by the way, the power is, I not only turn it off and everything else, but I unplug them, leave them hanging there because I would never want this baby to accidentally kick on. Just double checking these 2 guys. All right, and then this guy here is not going to be used right now. It's going to fly. I'm not going to take it off because it's too much trouble to take the shaft out and everything else. I'm just going to let it off to the side. I have my fence set up on the left side. If I did happen to have a wider board, and you're going to see this in some of the other stuff where we make some, let's say 2-inch or 3-inch gang cuts, I might even add another blade to it or 2, so I can have 3 or 4 or 5 blades going at once, depending on the thickness of the wood and all that. But for right now, it's just going to be off to the side, and we're not going to worry about it. It's just going to fly with the rest of the stuff. So we're all ready to go. I'm going to put the cover back on before I test it. Cover's coming. when you video by yourself, some of the things that you just have to deal with, you know. But basically the cover slips over the top like this. The older ones, I suppose it would help if I put it on the right way. Come on. Yeah, here it is. Sorry about that. Again, this is a newer one for me. The older versions have a different way of doing that. And you really can't screw this up. You just put it on. I have it on my list to buy some wing nuts for here, but for right now I'm going to use the regular nuts. So I'm going to put the video on pause while I tighten that up. Again, I've got it on my list because this is the first time I'm using this machine. Kind of forgot about this, but you can buy them when you buy the Woodmaster. But basically they have, you can just pick up some standard, I think these are 3/8 wing nuts. And to be honest with you, if I was trying to make a really accurate cut, I would probably just put one of these on, or maybe two loosely, and because I'm going to run my cut through and test the actual measurement of the board afterwards. But for right now, this is going to handle it. Okay, now this is going to be a little difficult to see, but basically what I'm doing is I'm looking under, and you can see the blades. They're not touching the plastic bed. And so what I'm going to do once I put the camera on the stand again is I am going to, I've got the power on now, it's plugged in rather, but I'm going to turn this knob, and when I do that it's going to lower, well really what it does is I think it raises the bed. Let me just see here. Yeah, it actually raises the bed, it doesn't lower the top. But when I do that, then it's going to bring it up closer and closer to those blades. What I don't want to do is turn it down to touch this plastic bed here. I don't want to turn it on when it's touching it, unless if it's already been basically pre-made a hole. Again, how do I explain that? For every location that the blades are in, you have to do this because you need to make a new trough inside this plastic temporary bed. The bed is about a 1/2 inch thick. If you go down too deep, you'd hit the steel, but you don't want to do that. But again, so right now I'm just going to turn that. So I'm basically raising the bed. I'm going to get it close to where they touch, and they're not going to touch. And then once I get that to that point, then I'm going to continue turning the knob until, to be honest with you, I don't even hook up the chute for this, because all of a sudden I'm going to see these little white particles fly out of there, which means that I am now into the plastic, and I'm going to take it into the plastic maybe about 1/8 of an inch or whatever they recommend. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, again, this is not a tool that you're going to use to set up for one board cut. This is for cutting a lot of boards because there's more setup to it. But I'm going to turn the machine on now. So basically what's going on is the shaft is turning. What I didn't turn on is this knob here. This is the knob that has the roller controls, and then that has different speeds you can set. It doesn't make any difference whether it's on for this right now. Then I'm going to look underneath there, and I am going to watch as it touches, and then once I see the plastic fly, then I know I'm in a good location. If the camera's picking this up, just a little bit of white plastic just flew out of here. Now I know I'm down where I want to be, and then I'm going to call it a day. That should be plenty to go all the way through the board, but yet not get anywhere near going into the steel bed itself. Okay, we're getting pretty close to running our first board through. What I decided to do was run a test board. In fact, I think I'm going to rip this, I'm going to not rip it, but cross cut it by half. Nah, I'll just let it go. Okay, here's the thing with the Woodmaster. It has a couple of really strong rollers in there that when they're really heavily spring loaded, so they really push down. I'm assuming it's to prevent kickback. Plus, remember, this thing is used for planing and sanding and all kinds of other things. I had this one set up right from the factory just for gang ripping, that's it. But it still has those in there. So when I put this board in there, it's not on right now, but when I put it in, it's going to fit under this first piece here, which is great. Right now I can feel it touching the rollers. Well, there's like about a 1/4 inch there of roller touching this wood, and it's a bear to get in there. They tell you that you can lift this end up a little bit, but that even doesn't work all that well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, if I had a file with me, I would do that. I could do this on a chop saw. I could just take a little edge off of there. But I'm basically going to make an angle so it doesn't have such a sharp edge. This will do it. And then that way I don't have such a sharp edge. Now that's the side that I'm going to put through. I'm going to put my headgear on and so on. Alright, well here's nothing. Again, this is its maiden voyage basically. I'm going to turn the roller on. I'm just going to set it to 70 right now. It goes from 0 to 100. And I'm going to set it at 70. That's controlling the rollers that are going to pull it through. Turn on the machine. No metal, no flying, which is good news. I've got that end that I put the little bevel on. Put it up against my right fence. Hope it works. You gotta send that baby in there. Stretching the springs and breaking the bit. We'll see. Okay, I have to run the first one here. It's not easy, but it's cool. What I should have done is put a secondary fence here, a featherboard, keep it up against the fence.